So we're going to move now to the new chapter of Egypt. Now Am Israel is in Egypt. This is on Sefer Ha-Aggadah, page 44. We know the story from the Torah. We know how Paro comes to Bnei Israel with a gradual plan, not immediately. The commentators explain that he didn't want outright to oppress them because they would rebel against him, so he tried to do it in different ways. One interesting midrash, not brought in Sefer Ha-Aggadah, but it's a famous midrash, is that Paro saw through his astrology that the Redeemer of Am Israel will be punished by water, and he said, okay, so let us drown all the newborn in the water of the Nile. But what he didn't know was that Moshe will eventually be forbidden from getting into Eretz Israel because of his misstep with the waters of Meriva. So this is what the Midrash says. It's one of many Midrashim that speak about astrology, but if you look at what is common to all of them, we spoke also about the one with Nimrod, seeing that Abraham is going to fight against him and trying to do things to following this sign delivered by astrology. The common theme to all the midrashim is that always the rabbis try to show that whatever was predicted by the astrologers didn't come through. When we think sometimes when we read the midrash, you think that the rabbis are saying that astrology is an accurate science. No, they're saying the opposite. At every point in our history, when they say this about Nimrod or about Paro or about Haman or about Rivka, about anyone, people see and think that they see one thing, but it turns out differently. Meaning, the stars really have no influence over. And why did the rabbis create these midrashim? Because at the time, people did believe very firmly in astrology. I mean, even today, people believe in it firmly. But the rabbis were actually against it, were trying to reject this attitude.
Can I add something? Why they come with all these midrashim? It's a way of explaining the layman.
Yeah, part of the midrashim was right. So part of the midrash was not just explaining, but making the story in the Torah more relatable to people. Because we spoke about how sometimes the Torah is very concise; it doesn't give you a lot of details. So you want to make it more dramatic. So here, for example, you have this. Midrash. Vayavidu Mitzrayim et Bnei Israel befarech. Says Egypt, the Egyptians made Bnei Israel work hard labor befarech. So the Hebrew word parech, when we say until today avodat perech or avodat parech, it means hard labor. It comes from the term parach in Hebrew. The verb means to break apart. It's more common, when you have crispy crackers, they say parich, because it breaks easily, and all the words that are related to it, like perer, parat, para, they all mean that. But the midrash looks at a different etymology, which of course is a word play. Rabbi Elazar Omer beferach. Befarech, don't read it as labor, but with sweet talk, soft words. Interesting, because in Mishnah we say lashon raka teshaber garim. You can break bones with soft words. Sometimes it's more effective. So what is this soft word? בשעה שאמר פרעה הבה נתחכמה, קיבץ את כל ישראל ואמר להם בבקשה מכם עשו עמי היום בטובה. Well, the first time that Pharaoh summoned Bnei Israel and he said, how is he going to enslave a whole nation? They're going to rebel against him. So the Midrash says the first day he came over to the Israeli camp, or the Israeli quarters in Goshen, and he said, I need your help. Please, I need your help. Me'asa. Natar sal umagrefa. He takes a bucket or a basket of that they used to fill with clay and a certain type of shovel, and he says, come help me, I need to make bricks. We're all joined in the military effort. We need to build the cities, we need to build storage houses, and we cannot do it alone. We are all together in it. The king, the Egyptians, the Israelites, everybody. כל מי שהיה רואה פרעה נוטל סלו מגרפה ועושה בלבנים היה עושה הפוך כך. Whoever saw, all the people who saw Paro doing that, of course they come and join it. You don't want to be labeled as a traitor. You want to be part of the effort. So they did that. מיד הלכו ישראל ועשו עמו כל היום לפי כוחם. So they worked eagerly to show that they are loyal citizens. כיוון שהחשיך העמיד עליהם נוגסים. אמר להם, this is one version, that by the end of the day, he already appointed taskmasters. And he says, how many bricks that you did today? This is what I want daily. Other versions have it that it was a gradual process. The first day, everybody was there. The second day, Pharaoh stayed home. The next day, the next level of high-ranking officials stayed home. Eventually, the Egyptians didn't come, and the only ones who were left in the field working were the Israelites. That makes more sense because it's a gradual build-up that they feel, we have to do that now. They got accustomed to doing that, and they wait for some kind of reward, and slowly, gradually, this becomes the habit. This is what everyone does. So this seems extreme. But in reality, it happened. It happened so many times in history. And the best analogy to what happened in Egypt is Nazi Germany. Because this is where you had the final solution plan to exterminate all Jews. And the Jews were really very gradually legislated out of existence or out of any civil rights. So the Reichstag, the German parliament, didn't pass laws in one day to say, okay, up until today you were a full-fledged citizen, and from now on you're nothing. It would not have worked. People would have said, either would leave the country, or there would be some kind of a political backlash inside Germany. From who knows? What they did that slowly they limited and they took away rights that the Jews had. First commercial, then certain rights that with political rights, then physical, where you are allowed to be, where you're allowed to be, who are you allowed to sell your merchandise to. Then they limited marriage, that Jewish men cannot marry an Aryan woman, and vice versa. And with every right that was taken away from the Jews, the reaction of the Jews was either there were some people who saw the pattern and said, this is going to be really bad, and they got up and left Germany. And other people said, okay, we had problems in the past, and as bad as this is, it's not the same as the Crusades. It's not the same as the pogroms. We could live through that. But what they didn't realize is that they got to a point where they became completely isolated. They had no one to speak for them. Of course, no one in the world. And then when the final level was that not only they became non-citizens, they became non-humans, because then when the next step of the National Democratic Party, this was called in the full name of the Nazi Party, what they did was start with the propaganda that showed Jews as vermin, as rats, as cockroaches. And once they established in people's mind that they are not human beings and they also have no civil rights, the next step was extermination, annihilation of the Jews. And here also the Midrash gives us a more dramatic description of what happened when they came up with the decree of killing all the newborn males. The Torah says, "Kol ben hayilod hayora tashlichu, v'chol habat tehayun." So how do you do that? What is happening then? That they say throw all the babies to the Nile, and then we read about Yocheved who hides Moshe for 3 months. So Amar Rabbi Hanan, מה היו בנות ישראל הקשרות והצנועות עושות? היו נוטלות ביניהן וטומנות אותן במחילות. Of course, the mothers would try to hide their children. והיו המצרים הרשעים נוטלים ביניהם הקטנים ומכניסים אותם לבתיהם של ישראל ועוקצים אותם והם בוכים. So the Egyptians would come with their own children to the homes of the Jews, of the Israelites, and and they would pinch their baby. And once the baby would start crying, the Israelite baby would respond and cry also. So this is they knew that maybe the baby would not respond to an adult calling him, but would resonate with the baby. And same thing happened during the Holocaust. That people would try to hide and would hide people in their homes, and they would come in and search the homes and make noises to try. And there were cases where terrible cases where parents who were hiding with their children had to put one of the to suffocate one of the youngest kids so he won't cry, and they will all be discovered. This is terrible. This is really, we read about it in Tanakh in few sentences, but you realize this is a very scary situation. We have now an interesting midrash, Darash Rabbi Avira. That comes from much later time, maybe 7. So this is the midrash is the following: B'schar nashim tzedkaniyot shebeoto ador nigalu Yisrael mitzrayim. They say that Bnei Israel were redeemed from Egypt. They were delivered from Mitzrayim in the merit of the righteous women. So what did the righteous women do? בשעה שיוצאות לשאוב מים, הקדוש ברוך הוא מזמין להם דגים קטנים בחדיהן, ושואבות מחצה מים ומחצה דגים, ובאות ושופטות שתי גדרות, אחת של חמין ואחת של דגים, ומוליכות אצל בעליהן לשדה, ומרחיצות אותם וסחות אותם, ומאכילות אותם ומשקות אותם, ונזקקות להם בין שפתיים, ובאות לבתיהן. וכיוון שמגיע זמן מולדיהן, הולכות ויולדות בשדה תחת התפוח. שנאמר תחת התפוח הוערתיך וכו'. I read the whole thing in Hebrew because it's one long story. What the Midrash says is this: that when the women would go to draw water from the well, the Hashem would make a miracle, and they would bring up the bucket with half water and half fish. So they would come home and they would boil the water, cook the fish, and we'll take the two buckets now, one with cooked fish and one with hot water, to the field, to where their husbands were working, and they sit their husband down, and they wash their feet, and they clean them, they feed them, and then apply ointments, fragrant oils to them, and then they have relationships with them in the field, and go back home and give birth. This whole thing is taken from the story that they going and give. Now I don't want to. No, it's a nice story.
Rabbi, explain to them what does it mean that it comes from Shir Hashirim.
So what is it? So in Shir Hashirim we read this is about a love affair between Shlomo and the Raya, or the Raya and the Roy. It's not clear the story there for a different time. But she says, I have aroused your love under the apple tree. So this is what happened in Egypt. Now, not to pop the balloon of the Midrash, it's a beautiful story, but it has no foothold in reality. This is more...
They are not the Mitzvah.
No, exactly. Number one, very good. No apples in Egypt. It's not the climate. It's a hot, humid climate. Some parts arid, not Tapua needs, right. 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 The apple tree needs a colder weather. That's number one. Besides it seems like almost like wishful thinking of whoever wrote that. Maybe didn't get along that well with his wife. Said he wishes that his wife would come when he comes home. She gives him hot water. She gives him food. We don't know. But the point is not that. All this is impossible. That when you talk about a nation of slaves, that they would, deliver to the field hot water and fish and sleep in the field. This doesn't make sense. But anyway, the story, as we said in the Midrash, it was not about making sense. It's about making people excited. Like the story is beautiful if you don't really go, analyzing every detail as a story. It's a beautiful story. You imagine how the Israelites, despite the decree, despite everything they tried to do to them, they still have children in order to try somehow to raise them. They do not succumb to the decree, and then they said the Egyptians really weren't able to kill the children because they would give birth to them in the field, and with the moment the Egyptians would come search for them, they would disappear in the underground, and once they leave, they would come out again. So this, of course, is a contradiction to the previous midrash that says that they were looking for them in their homes and taking them out. Now, where did this whole midrash come from? This is a midrash that comes in two stages. The first stage, someone made a comment: "Bizchut nashim tzidkaniyot nigalu Yisrael mitzrayim." We were delivered from Egypt in merit of the righteous women. That's it. One sentence. Later, through the generations, people started, okay, what is the meaning of that? Now they make an interpretation to the interpretation. Right? What is the meaning of in the merit of righteous women? So they came up with the whole story. That the women took care of the husbands and gave birth to children and raised them despite all odds. But what was the original intention of the author of this statement? That it was the righteous women who delivered Bnei Israel out of Egypt. So I heard once, this was really from, I think from a husband who was not very happy with his marriage. He said that the original decree, what God told Abraham in Berit Ben Abetarim, he said, your children will be enslaved for 400 years. But when you count exactly, you calculate, it's around 200 years, 210. So what happened? Hashem said 400 years. So this man told me, he said, it's like me, I work hard all day, but when I come home, my wife doesn't give me any rest. So I work day and night. So they said, because the women in Egypt made their husbands work hard at night, at home, clean, this, that, yelling at them, fighting with them, that was extra slavery. So it got cut from 400 years to 200 years. But this obviously is a joke. This is not the real intention. The real intention of the original author of the Midrash is what the Pshat tells us. That really the women, the way Bnei Israel were able to survive, and especially in the life of Moshe. Moshe himself is protected and brought up by women that if not for them, there would be no Moshe, there would be no Geula. Who are these women? They are named Shifra, Puah, Yocheved, Miriam, and Bat Paro. 5 women. Right, she's not called Bitya, not in Torah. It's a midrash, but the midrash is based on Sefer Divrei Yamim, where it speaks about the marriage of Shlomo with the daughter of Paro, and she's called Bitya. So that's why everybody says Batya Bat Paro. But it's not written in the Torah proper. In any case,
she was 300 years old.
No, so they assumed that just like all the pharaohs were called Pharaoh, all their daughters were called Batya. But it's very possible that when Shlomo marries this Egyptian princess, he renames her Batya, the daughter of God. Just like, converts would call themselves Avraham or Sarah, etc. Avimelech, no, not why Avimelech?
All the kings of Palestine, how they call Avimelech?
Oh, yeah, the same name, yeah, but not about converts. So first of all, Shifra and Puah, they were the midwives who were told by Paro that he wants them to kill all the newborn babies. In other situations, you look at, again, in history, take, for example, the Nazi story, right? The Nazi regime. A lot of soldiers or officers claimed innocence after the war by saying, I was just following orders. They would say, no, the Führer told me to do that. I had to follow orders. They thought that they could hide behind this excuse. Shifra and Puah, the midwives, could also do the same thing. The king says, I want you to kill all the babies. They say, okay, we have to follow orders, otherwise it's going to kill us. And they could have argued, if we don't do that, he will bring someone else to do it. So it will be done anyway. So what's the point of resisting? We'll have just to go with that. But they didn't. I mean, it's not a simple thing. It's not just they saved the Jewish babies. That really, this was the first example of civil disobedience in a way that they put their lives on the line, not saying it will happen anyway. So those are the first 2 women who enabled eventually the Geulah of Bnei Israel because they would not take part in it. Then you have Yocheved and Miriam. Yocheved and Miriam also courageous because Yocheved gave birth to Moshe and hid him until he was 3 months old. And then they plotted, I think it was well planned, that he will get to Bat Paro. It wasn't a coincidence because that's my theory, that since they were slaves, they were in contact with all the slaves, with all the Hebrew slaves. So they had also slaves working for rich people, for important people. So they passed the word around. We're looking for someone who doesn't have a child and who might want to adopt a child. And we'll try to trick her into that. So that's why when they put the Moshe in the basket, and we don't think that it says that they put him in the Nile, it wasn't inside on the river. It's Ben Knei Asuf, among the reeds. And they planted it in the path of Bat Paro because they knew that's where she goes every morning. And Miriam stays there, ready for action. The moment she sees the princess walking, she was like, she wants to say, would she touch this basket? She does. Would she open it? Yes. Does she show mercy? Yes. So she runs out and she says, you want me to get you a wet nurse? You want me to get you someone to take care of the baby? And the princess knows that she's related and it's a whole thing, but she cannot help but take the kid. She wants that child. So Yocheved and Miriam planned all that and were able to do that. But Bat Paro herself, it's not just it's not a simple thing that she takes the kid to take this baby to the palace. She must have had a very serious argument with her father, because they know that this Miyaldei Ivrim zeh, they know that this is a Hebrew child. It's not an Egyptian. They look different. They're Canaanites, or
Hitler.
So the father's like Hitler. He says, "What are you bringing a Jewish kid into my house?" Right? She says, and she started whatever she pulled. Either she started crying or she started fighting with him. She went to her room and locked the door. She says, "I want to talk to you. You never listen to me, right?" She put on Facebook, my dad is so mean. Whatever it was back then. But she got it her way. So when we say B'zchut Nashim Tzidkaniyot, it's really about particular women who stood up to Pharaoh, each one in her own way, and were able to protect and save Moshe.